Have you ever heard of a European country that was born while you were sleeping? A place that simply didn't exist on the map until 1993, and today hides dark secrets behind its medieval castles? Welcome to Slovakia, a nation that emerged from the ashes of communism and now walks a tightrope between European democracy and authoritarianism. This is a country where local mafias once had so much power they managed to silence investigative journalists. Literally. In 2018, the world was shocked when Jan Cusiak, a young reporter, was brutally murdered along with his fiancée in their own home, simply for investigating the corruption infiltrating the government. Here's a fact few people know. Slovakia is a country where the gap between rich and poor is growing faster than anywhere else in Central Europe. While new millionaires show off their mansions in Bratislava, in the eastern regions, entire Roma communities live in slums without running water, as if trapped in another century. But how did this happen in such a young country? And how did Slovakia manage to transform itself, despite its shadows, into one of the world's largest car producers per capita? Get ready for a journey to this European enigma, where beauty and darkness walk side by side. Slovakia may look small on the map, but its position in the heart of Europe makes it much more important than its size suggests. With an area of just 49,035 square kilometers, smaller than the state of West Virginia, the country is essentially a bridge between Eastern and Western Europe. Geographically, Slovakia is mostly mountainous, with the imposing Tatra Mountains to the north forming a natural border with Poland. The Slovak climate is continental, with harsh winters where temperatures can drop below 14 degrees Fahrenheit and moderately warm summers averaging around 77 degrees Fahrenheit. As for population, Slovakia is home to about 5.5 million people, equivalent to the population of Minnesota. Most live in small and medium-sized cities, with only 12% concentrated in the capital, Bratislava, which is strategically located on the banks of the Danube River. It's precisely this privileged location that has always placed Slovakia at the center of geopolitical disputes. For centuries, the territory was dominated by other empires and countries, and only recently have Slovaks won the right to decide their own destiny. Slovakia's history is a narrative of survival and resistance. Long before it existed as an independent nation, the territory was inhabited by Slavic peoples who settled in the region around the 5th century. In the 9th century, Great Moravia emerged, which included parts of present-day Slovakia. It was during this time that Christianity reached the region, brought by the missionaries Cyril and Methodius. However, Slovak history is marked by foreign domination. After the collapse of Great Moravia, the territory was absorbed by the Kingdom of Hungary, where it remained for almost 1,000 years. Imagine that. For 10 centuries, Slovaks didn't have their own country, being governed by Hungarians who frequently tried to suppress their culture and language. World War I brought drastic changes. With the dissolution of the Austro-Hungarian Empire in 1918, Czechoslovakia was born, uniting Czechs and Slovaks in a single nation. However, the Czechs, more numerous and industrialized, dominated politics and economy, while Slovaks remained marginalized. Czechoslovakia had a brief period of democracy until World War II, when Hitler took advantage of ethnic tensions to dismember the country, creating the fascist Slovak state led by Josef Tiso. Under his regime, 70,000 Slovak Jews were deported to concentration camps, a dark stain that still weighs on the national conscience. After the war, Czechoslovakia was reestablished but soon fell under the Soviet sphere. For 40 years, the country lived under an oppressive communist regime. The reform attempt known as the Prague Spring in 1968 was brutally crushed by Soviet tanks. The Velvet Revolution of 1989 finally toppled communism, but brought to light tensions between Czechs and Slovaks. On January 1st, 1993, in a surprisingly peaceful manner, the Slovak Republic was born, a separation so smooth it was nicknamed the Velvet Divorce. Freedom brought new challenges. The transition to a market economy was painful, with controversial privatizations that enriched an elite while many suffered from unemployment. In the following decades, Slovakia underwent a remarkable transformation, abandoning Soviet isolation to integrate into the European Union and NATO. However, the legacy of authoritarianism still haunts the country. with corruption finding loopholes in fragile democratic institutions. Slovakia is one of those rare European treasures not yet invaded by mass tourism, and that's part of its charm. While visitors jostle in Prague or Vienna, you can explore medieval castles and mountain villages with much more tranquility. Bratislava, the capital, is a fascinating mix of eras. Its historic center is dominated by the imposing Bratislava Castle, a white fortress that seems straight out of fairy tale. In the cobblestone alleys of the old town, you'll find cozy cafes and Baroque buildings. But just a short distance away, you'll see the gigantic concrete buildings of the Soviet era, a contrast that tells a country's story without needing words. A little-known gem is Spies Castle in the east, one of the largest medieval complexes in Central Europe. Recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, this 12th century fortress seems to freeze time. More adventurous visitors shouldn't miss the High Tatras National Park, where well-marked trails lead to alpine lakes with crystal-clear waters. In winter, the region transforms into a paradise for skiers, with much more affordable prices than the Alps. For those seeking relaxation, Slovak thermal waters are a must. Pistiny, about 50 miles from Bratislava, is famous for its sulfurous springs with healing properties. Soaking in these hot waters while snow falls outside is an unforgettable experience. But here are some practical tips. Although Bratislava is well connected, exploring the countryside can be challenging without a car. Public transportation exists, but in rural areas, schedules are limited. As for food, prepare for hearty dishes. Brinzo Veluski, small potato dumplings topped with sheep cheese and crispy bacon, is the national dish. Accompany it with local beer or, for the brave, a shot of Borovica, the traditional spirit. A word of caution. Although the country is generally safe, avoid discussing local politics or ethnic issues, especially about the Roma community. Tensions exist, and as a visitor, it's best to remain neutral. The Slovak economy is one of the most impressive transformation stories in post-communist Europe. In just 3 decades, the country has gone from a centralized economy to an automotive production center that attracts global investments. Slovakia is now known as the Detroit of Europe, producing more cars per capita than any other country in the world. Volkswagen, Kia, Peugeot, and Jaguar Land Rover have established modern factories that employ thousands. In 2020, more than 1.1 million vehicles rolled off Slovak assembly lines. Impressive for a country of just 5.5 million people. But it's not all roses. The average monthly income in Slovakia hovers around 1,200 euros, approximately $1,320, significantly lower than its western neighbors. A 1-bedroom apartment in Bratislava costs on average 500 to 700 euros per month, $550 to $770, while a family of 4 spends about 500 euros, $550 monthly on food. This means many families live on the edge, especially in less developed regions. The regional disparity is striking. While Bratislava boasts gleaming glass buildings and a GDP per capita comparable to rich regions of Germany, the east of the country struggles with double-digit unemployment rates. This inequality fuels political tensions and internal migration. Another challenge is excessive dependence on the automotive industry. With the global transition to electric vehicles, this concentration represents a risk. Economists warn that Slovakia needs a diversified economy and invest more in innovation. Corruption also remains an obstacle. European Union funds, which should boost development in the poorest regions, often disappear in shady schemes. This problem was exposed in the case of journalist Jan Cusiak's murder, who was investigating connection between politicians and Italian criminal groups defrauding agricultural subsidies. Behind the facade of a modern European country, Slovakia hides deep problems. The murder of journalist Jan Cusiak and his fiancée in 2018 tore away the veil of normality the country was trying to maintain. Investigations revealed alarming connections between influential business people, high-ranking politicians, and organized crime. The case sparked the largest protest since the fall of communism, with thousands of Slovaks in the streets demanding justice. Businessman Marian Kochner, who publicly threatened Cusiak before his murder, was later convicted of financial crimes but acquitted of homicide due to lack of conclusive evidence, a decision that generated public outrage. Slovak politics has been marked by scandals and polarization. Populist figures like former Prime Minister Robert Fico exploit fear and economic insecurity with nationalist rhetoric. After falling due to post-Cusick murder protests, Fico managed a surprising political comeback in 2023, despite the corruption accusations surrounding him. The issue of the Roma minority is another dark face. Approximately 500,000 Roma live in the country, many in segregated settlements without adequate access to education, health, and employment. Open discrimination against this community is still common, with Roma children often sent to special education schools even without need. In some eastern villages, literal walls have been built separating Roma communities from the rest of the population. Italian organized crime has also found fertile ground in Slovakia. Ndrangheta and Camorra groups have established seemingly legitimate businesses that serve as fronts for money laundering and fraud. Cusick's murder exposed how these groups managed to infiltrate the highest spheres of power. The legacy of communism still weighs on society. Secret files of the STB, the former secret police, revealed that many public figures collaborated with the repressive regime. This incomplete lustration allowed influence networks from the communist era to adapt to capitalism, transforming political power into private wealth during the privatizations of the 1990s. A recent scandal involved the judicial system, when leaked conversations showed high-ranking judges negotiating sentences with politicians and business people. The messages revealed a deeply compromised justice system, where judicial decisions could be bought like commodities. Slovakia, this young country born just 30 years ago, carries the weight of a complex past and the challenges of a turbulent present. As we've seen behind the medieval castles and majestic mountains, there are shadows of corruption, inequality, and unresolved tensions. The murder of Jan Cusick remains a painful reminder of how far there is still to go. But it would be unfair to end this story only with its shadows, because Slovakia is also a country of extraordinary resilience. This small country, which for centuries didn't even exist on the map, has managed in just 3 decades to build a functioning democracy, integrate into the European Union, and develop a modern economy. The same protests that arose after Cusick's murder revealed something powerful: a new generation of Slovaks who no longer accept corruption as inevitable. Young, educated people connected with the world and determined to build a better country are taking leadership positions. They are living proof that Slovakia's future is not predetermined by its troubled past. Anti-corruption initiatives have gained strength, with courageous prosecutors and police dismantling criminal networks that once seemed untouchable. Investigative journalists continue Cusick's work, refusing to be silenced by fear. In poorer regions, community projects are trying to break cycles of poverty and discrimination. Innovative schools are working to integrate Roma children, showing that inclusion is not only possible but beneficial for the whole society. The economy is also beginning to diversify beyond the automotive industry, with startups emerging in Bratislava and Košice. Slovakia is like a mirror for all post-communist Europe. It reflects both the traumas of the past and the possibilities of the future. It's a country that reminds us that democracy is not a destination, but a continuous journey that requires vigilance. The next time you pass those stunning castles or taste a delicious sheep cheese, remember, you are witnessing a chapter of a story in the making. Slovakia, with all its contradictions, continues to write its destiny, trying to emerge completely from the shadows into the light of a more just future. This country that was born while the world slept may still surprise everyone with what is to come.